Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe, Jaya Gopinath Radha, Jaya Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Om Shripat Param Saparivacha Ashto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Shri Prabhupada ki Namacharya Shri Das Thakur ki प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की, जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की, the Lordship Gaunatay ki, Thy Guru Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Gaur Shri Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. So welcome to another Monday morning. So we are continuing our discussion on Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse number 15. Chapter title, Parishit Maharaj cursed by a Brahmin boy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. So, text 15. I'll try the rhythm. It didn't come to me last time. Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano. Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatmai Kanta Parayanasya Mahatmai Kanta Paranayasya Hare Rudaram Charitam Vishuddham Hare Rudaram Charitam Vishuddham Shushrusatam no vitanotu vidvan Shushrusatam no vitanotu vidvan Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatmai Kanta Parayanasya Hare Rudaram Charitam Vishuddham Shushrusatam no vitanotu vidvan Tanno Bhagan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Vishuddham Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatmai Kanta Paranayasya Hare Rudaram Charitam Vishuddham Shushrusatam no vinatoti vidvan Tanno Bhavan Vai Bhagavat Pradhano Mahatmai Kanta Paranayasya Hare Rudaram Charitam Vidusham Shushrusatam no vitanotu vidwan. Word for word translation. Tat, therefore, na, of us, bhavan, your good self. Why? Certainly, Bhagavat, in relation with the personality of Godhead. Pradhanaha, chiefly. Mahatama, the greatest of all great. Ekantha, exclusively. Parayanasya, of the shelter. Harer, of the Lord. Udaram, impartial. Charitam, activities. Vishuddham, transcendental. Shushrusatam, those who are receptive. Naha, ourself. Vita notu, kindly describe. Vidwan, O learned one. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord, because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material concept, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Purport. The speaker of the transcendental activities of the Lord should have only one object of worship and service, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the audience for such topic should be anxious to hear about him. When such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then that they are very much congenial to continue discourses on the transcendence. Professional speakers and a materially absorbed audience cannot derive real benefit from such discourses. Professional speakers make a good show of Bhagavad Sapta for the sake of family maintenance, and the materially disposed audience hears such discourses of Bhagavad Sapta for some material benefit, namely religiosity, wealth, gratification of senses, or revelation. Such Bhagavatam discourses are not purified from the contamination of the material qualities, but the discourses between the saints of Naimisharanya and Sri Sutta Goswami are on the transcendental level. There is no motive for material gain. In such discourses, unlimited transcendental pleasure is relished both by the audience and by the speaker, and therefore they can continue the topic for many thousands of years. Now, Bhagavad Saptas are held for 7 days only, and after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker becomes entangled in material activities as usual. They can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavat Pradhana, and the audience is not Shushrusatam, as explained above. So let's chant the Mangalacharan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Takshurum Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stvapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuthapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahana Lalita Shri Vishakantam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishavanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll just read the translation again. O Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord because the personality of Godhead is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord which are above all material concept, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Hare Krishna. So it's very nice description where it says that both the speaker as well as the receiver of knowledge have to be potent and receptive for the message to touch the heart. And the speaker of Bhagavatam here, where Sutta Goswami is being asked, like where Shukadev Goswami spoke to Maharaj Parishit as well as Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, they were both looking for the welfare of the people. And because of that, the message or the potency of the discourse that gave from Bhagavatam was like impregnated with love for Godhead. So again, I think from my side, my Bhagavatam class is not impregnated with love for Godhead. It's impregnated with just trying to be a devotee class category. So, but again, like the difference between what was spoken there and what is spoken here is not different, because here we try to better ourselves, even if one might not be very philosophically or intellectually well versed in the content of Bhagavatam, but the message of Bhagavatam, if we are trying to sincerely try to follow it, it does take the same potency. Because when somebody is sitting here, they're not representing themselves, they're representing Vyasadeva. So we're just trying to expand what Vyasadeva has said. So even with a little bit of sincerity and with no material motive, if we are able to give the message of Bhagavatam, then it actually reaches the heart of the person. And it's not just a theoretical thing. We have proof as well. So for speaking for myself, I know like how much anarthas I have, how much weakness of heart, how much struggles I have to go through just to chant my 16 rounds and with that attentiveness. And some days are like worse than most days. So but still when we are able to go out on Harinam and when we sing the holy name, there are people who are attracted to it. There are people who come and inquisitively ask for us. And then when you guys distribute books, people who are like out of nowhere, immersed in material qualities, material mentality, they just have that brief moment of something taking over them. Book distribution, we don't say the full story. We just say what's needed, and then depending on it's said that the person doesn't buy the book, the person buys buys you, basically the enthusiasm that you share. So it is proof that even though we have a very very little Krishna consciousness compared to all these Mahabhagavats, we are able to make some change, not because we are at the same level of their spiritual understanding, but we are just trying. So that trying is the most important thing in spiritual life, because if we look at when are we going to achieve liberation, or like when are we going to achieve love for Godhead, we can keep waiting for a long time. But then what impresses Radha Gopinath is basically, though he is not there, he is just trying. So when offensive chanting to the intermediate level of chanting, so Nama Pratu Nama Abhas, the only thing that makes you come from one category to next one is just trying to chant the holy name little bit attentively. We can't be as attentive as we want to, and we'll never have that. Like I remember once Ghanshyam Prabhu asking to Devanta Maharaj, like, will there ever be a time where we are satisfied with our chanting of the quality of our rounds? And Maharaj said, you'll never be satisfied, because if you're satisfied, that means like you reach the epitome of ecstasy. But Krishna's qualities Or like what how Bhavishnu Prabhu was saying yesterday, like Brahma says, like others can say that they know about Krishna, but according to me, I don't know anything. Others can claim, but he is the most intelligent person of the universe, and he says that I don't know anything. So we can never reach the place where we are completely satisfied with our quality of round Sandhi, because the more you reach, there's more to more depth in the chanting, and then we'll just go on, and that search will never end. This is the only process by which we can just be happy just because we are trying. Because in the material sense, you have to achieve something before you actually can come on the posters, your name coming on the newspaper, or it's been in the website. He achieved something. But here, Krishna is looking at just that endeavor, that how hard he's making. And that's why it's more, devotional service is more and more accessible, because if you see the other classes of yoga system, like being jnana yoga or like going through mystic yogis, they have to achieve certain perfection before they actually can exhibit it. And basically, if you are a yogi, and many people kind of think in the modern terms like just having a long hair and a beard and and then talking about doing meditation is about yoga, but it's not. Yogis, they basically separated themselves, isolated themselves from the normal social life, and then they went to the forest, and then they had to undergo so many austerities so that they can get that mystic power. But here, we are actually saying to follow devotional service, you can go to work, you can have a family, you can have kids, you can have a house, you can have a car, you can be everything, whatever another person do, but still you can achieve devotional, like the perfection of life, which itself means this process, with doing everything, you can still achieve it. But in the other process, if you really want to achieve certain thing, you have to totally dedicate your life for that. Otherwise, there's no point in even trying it. But here, even though we have a lot of shortcomings, Radha Gopinath or Radharani, they actually see the endeavor. Now, why is that here? Like now, because Bhagavad Saptas go for 7 days, is I think is related to because Parikshit Maharaj received the message from Sukadeva Goswami for 7 days. Now, if that goes for 7 days, but after these 7 days, Parikshit Maharaj, again, like he attained love of Godhead and he went back to Godhead. But Prabhupada explains why are these people who are actually sitting for the Bhagavad Sapta for 7 days not achieving the same result. And it all comes back to consciousness, because they come with an ulterior motive. And the speaker of the Bhagavatam is also not on the stage of Paramahamsa, or not on the stage of even like benefiting the audience. His whole purpose is basically like, okay, it's more for my family maintenance. So that's why there is no exchange of the interaction of the hearts, because I'm speaking through my mouth, or somebody is speaking through the mic, but how does it touch the heart? What is that thing? Science has never found out a mechanism. How can you do something to touch somebody's heart? It just comes out of it. That's where it distinguishes us from missions to human. Like with the mission, you can program it, but with the human being, you have to connect with him. Without connection, the message doesn't pass through. And I'll say an example where actually the speaker was qualified, but what happens if the listener was not receptive? I had a friend, like he's still my friend, but when a long time ago when I started my Krishna conscious journey, we took him to one of Devant Maharaj's retreat. Now he was not interested in any of philosophy and everything. He used to challenge me and everything. I said, like, instead of me explaining, why don't you just come to a thing? It's like you got nice food and just a weekend. So he came and he sit for the whole couple of days of seminars and involved in the kirtan and everything. But again, he didn't take up Krishna conscious. But then, I think over like around 2 years after, so he moved from here to another place. There was like, I think 2011, I think there was a recession. So he lost, I think he didn't lose his job, but then some of his friends lost their job, and they were like, some of them were like recently married, like, like married like 5 months before. And when I was having a chat with him, he was saying like, oh my God, like, I don't know how these guys, without security, they got married and everything, now they are without jobs. Then I said like, what can you do? Like, what will you do if you're in that situation? He said like, I'll just commit suicide. And I told him like, what do you think? Like, committing suicide is going to solve all your problems? You at least can, if you're hungry, you can actually go and have food. But when you commit suicide, when you're in a ghostly form, you're just having a subtle form, and you can't even catch hold of something if you're thirsty or hungry. So what you're going to suffer until your time has actually eventually comes to die. Then he said like, do you think I'm a fool? I'm like taken back. I'm like, okay, is he going to put some like really strong argument or anything? He said, I'm not going to just die like that. When I die, I'm going to say Hare Krishna. So this is the example where he's totally not receptive. You didn't take anything from the seminar, and he did not practice anything, but then subconsciously, just being in the association of devotees, he just understood that the core of the message, that if you say Hare Krishna, then he'll go back to Godhead. But again, it's up to Krishna's prerogative whether to accept or not accept. But then this is a quality where when the speaker is qualified and his whole motive is just to help the people or help the audience, but the audience are not receptive, but still the connection of the heart has happened. And eventually, like, if he happens to take up in this lifetime, well and good, but if not, then he still started his thing, because that is after to a person who doesn't have any interest to actually just catch the core of the whole philosophy is amazing. And I'll tell you another story. I don't know if it's just a story though, where it depends on the consciousness of the person listening to the message, or attached to the spiritual process, rather than what their life goes on. So basically, there was in a small village, there was ashram of a sadhu, and he used to have all the people coming over, and used to have classes on Bhagavatam and all these things. And then opposite, there was this house of a prostitute, but I'll just say house of a butcher, okay? So the butcher place. So let's say this person was just killing animals every day, chopping, and let's say he was Sudra class. That was the only job he got. There's nothing he could do. So his livelihood was just killing animals and then selling the meat and taking care of his life. But the other side, just because it's a small town, you don't have this discrimination, so it's ashram, and then very, very close opposite to it, there's a butcher shop. You can still see in India, like even you got a big bus stop there, and then there'll be a small butcher shop just on the corner, small shop, not like a fancy one. So this sadhu was practicing his devotional service, and he used to give class, and he used to sometimes criticize that person, look at the life of that person, he's just killing animals and then and living a life just selling their meat, and what a cruel activity it is. And then eventually, by Lord's arrangement, both after like many years, like saying like 30-40 years, they both died on the same day. Coincidence maybe. And they could see the two parties coming. One was the Vishnu Tudas, and another one was the Yamatudas. And the saintly person who was there was very happy that at last he achieved the perfection of life. But then the Yamatudas went straight to him, and the Vishnu Tudas went straight to the butcher. And he was confused, like what's happening here? There's something wrong. And he couldn't accept the fact, he spent all his life, doing puja and all these things. But he's supposed, Yamatudas are coming for him, and then he kind of questioned them, what happened? Is there something wrong? Don't let this guy go. I'm happy to come to Yamaloka, that's fine, but don't let this guy go to Vishnuloka, because we most happy, like if we don't achieve this perfection, if somebody else doesn't achieve perfection, we are much more happier. And it's very hard for us to, like if our peers go grow in Krishna conscious, to see them grow and then we not growing is the most hardest thing. So he had the same feeling. So he said, let's clear this matter and then I'm happy to come anywhere. Now when they went to Chitragupta and then looked at his record, what happened, then it came out that this butcher was Sudra, and then it was livelihood. But every time, and he was not allowed in temples, in sometimes in temples a certain class of people are not allowed even inside the temple. So all the time when he was actually cutting the meat and doing the nonsense activity in material terms, he was just meditating on how fortunate the people are who are able to go into the ashram and worship the deities and listen to the classes and everything. And no matter what, when the classes was going on, even because at those times there was no microphone or anything, he used to somehow, try to grasp whatever came out, like say whatever little he could hear, because a big group of people, somebody has to speak loud, so whatever he could catch hold of the transcendental message, he was very eager to catch hold of it. But on the other side, this person, though he was doing all these things, he had this desire, like, it's basically saying like, okay, I became a sadhu, but I used to live a life with a lot of freedom, do whatever I want, eat whatever I want. Look at this guy. Though he was like talking bad of him, he was like, this guy is like, get to eat meat every day. Like, and and then that desire was there. And he was thinking, I'm just put in this position, but then, like how my life was before I became a sadhu. So that's the consciousness, the difference in consciousness, because even though he was telling the message of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, but his consciousness was different. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's one who sweeps the floor with sincerity is better than a sadhu who's a pretender. So that's what happens in our lives. So that we sometimes, though we are devotees, sometimes we think of the past life that, like I think I had a better life then, like, rather than coming in the association of devotees, and like it's so much, and I felt the expectation which I came was different to the experience I get, because I thought devotees you already have a preconceived idea like devotees means they should be like that, but then they're not like that. How come, like, they're doing the chanting, they're doing all these so-called spiritual activity, but still I see that they are like so immature and all these things. But again, it was a nice point which Venuvada Prabhu mentioned, like if you happen to think like that, then how we can look at ourselves, like why, when we are actually looking for getting association with someone, I'm not getting that association with a nice devotee who's not able to understand, why can't you be that example? Like, when it's very easy, like somebody doesn't clean, if the house is dirty, instead of just complaining that why is nobody cleaning up, why can't you just take a broom and take a towel and just start cleaning? So that's also a fault of oneself, where they actually try to find fault in other people, that things are not right, but they don't try to change themselves. Now, the difference between the activity of a devotee and a non-devotee is that we always relate certain activities to being spiritual and certain activities for being materialistic. So like, and it all comes from a bodily action. Like, if you are one who's not a mature devotee, you might think like being in the temple is spiritual activity, but being at home has nothing to do with spiritual activity. And people who don't know the message of Bhagavad Gita or the devotional service, they think when they are at home, it's my life, and then when you're in temple, it's a public life. Like I have to just act like I'm a good person, but at home it's my territory and I do whatever I want. But that's the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, because for devotee there's no two lives. Whatever is however he actually conducts himself in temple is the same way he conducts himself in office, and the same way he conducts himself at home. And that is the maturity, or that is what is called being not hypocritical. Like, having two lives. So because if you have that, then it's basically cheating. It's just being a pretender. And of course, it's not easy to do that because of different circumstances. But then Krishna again sees how much you're trying to do that. So if like I go to office, there might be another person who's quite very, very sincere at work. Like he's putting all his heart and soul into work, and like developing the company, and and actually like improving the team structure and everything. But for me, it doesn't interest me that much. For me, it's like I go to work for working, and that helps me pay the bills, and I don't want to over endeavor in raising my hands for every little thing, like, hey, I'm there to help you, like, like I want to be the best, like the managers, the preferred employee. I don't want to be that. So everybody has that difference in nature. So, but just because of that, if you go to work and say like it's all nonsense, and you try to behave very, very critical of whatever they do, that's not good. So, but you do what's necessary according to the values and the vision of the organization, but then you don't disturb anything there, because we don't want to lose the job. But the same thing at home as well, or wherever you are, we don't go criticizing and bad mouthing, but we can actually just do what's necessary, and then we can just be neutral. That's all we can do. And then from there, and whatever interests us in spirituality, that you kind of give more interest to that, and Radha Gopinath still appreciates that. But if you neglect your duty outside, just in the sake of spirituality, oh, I'm serving the devotees there, so I don't have to do anything at home. Or I'm like, say I go to work and say I gave Bhagavatam class on Monday, so why do I even care about all these, my manager and the project manager who's asking for a deliverable, like, is it even worth? So then material nature doesn't work, because you still, matter or spiritual, you still are working under Krishna's arrangement, the way Krishna's arranged. So when you respect the material nature, it's still you're respecting Krishna's energy. That's the most important thing. Now, the story I said about the butcher and the saint, you can't take it literally, because Prabhupada always mentions about purity is the force. Now Prabhupada says, what is that thing? I can say it, but then it doesn't come rightly. He says, no one can be wrapped in attention unless one is pure in mind. And purity in mind is achieved through purity in body, and purity in action is achieved by purity in body is achieved by purity in action. And how can purity in action be achieved? That is by purifying our eating, mating, sleeping and defending activities. So that is where the 4 regulative principles come. So that purifies our action. In turn, our body gets purified. Because of doing that, our mind gets purified, and because of that, we can actually have rapt attention to the message of Krishna. But otherwise, it is very, very hard. You can't expect your lifestyle to be so different, and then your consciousness to be quite elevated. And I once when Jayapatak Maharaj came over here, after the first time he had the stroke, he was staying in Manish and Anuradha Mataji house just in opposite to this North Sydney Library in the unit. So there weren't many people, so I was there as in helping. And once having a conversation with one of his servants, I asked him, like, Prabhu, like we do chanting and all these things, but then people say, like, they say like they sit in meditation for an hour. Like, how is it possible? And he said, like, it's all rubbish. I said, like, how do you, like, he said, how do you say that, Prabhu? He said, like, how is that devotees who are chanting and then reading Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita and then constantly want to have that right consciousness, not eating meat, even coffee and tea, not eating onion, garlic, and then trying to as much eat prasadam and everything. How is that we do? It's even if for devotees it's so hard having all these things, doing all these external things. But how come these meditators who don't follow any of these prescribed rules and regulations, and then when they sit down, they just can actually go into samadhi or meditate? And he said, like, they're basically just sleeping. But and there are proof, like like I haven't seen, but then I've seen Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj say that, and then like once he went into a small meditative center where it was nice and dark, the ambience was very nice, and then he took his chanting beat, but they didn't allow it because it's a silent meditation. And he said after he went there, 10 minutes later, he could hear like all these divine sounds, which is basically snoring. Like, the people, it's very hard for even when devotees who are actually trying to do that. So I think what we can take away is that, of course, we are not at the level of where we can sit like Parashit Maharaj, and we are not at the level where we can sit even with the saints for 1,000 years for the benefit of other people. But in our spiritual life, we have to understand that we have to take material as and spiritual life. Basically, there should be a balance, but then we should give respect to the material nature as well, because that's still energy of Krishna. And the example is, if somebody serves you, let's say Prabhupada's disciple comes in, like he's supposed to be highly elevated than us, we give him Mahaprasadam on a very dirty plate. That doesn't go well, isn't it? Yes, the plate is just a material thing, and Mahaprasadam is like food offered to Krishna. So it doesn't matter. He should be oblivious of the fact like plate is dirty. It doesn't work like that. So the way when we serve devotees, we clean the plate and offer it in a nice way. So the material side as well as the spiritual side should not contradict each other. And another thing is, like, we as devotees or aspiring devotees, we do a lot of mistakes, and we should, the first thing to do is like acknowledge that mistake. And like I when I was typing, when I was sitting with someone at work, and then that person was, like I was telling about the requirement, and he or she was typing, I found out that, in the keyboard, there are so many keys, right? But more than anything, we use backspace, because every time we type, there's some word goes wrong, and we backspace it, right? And then another thing is the space bar. So these two, though there are like so many keys in the keyboard, these two keys are the most used keys. So the way I kind of related is like, first is like life can be so busy, but we need to have that space for ourselves, that what you call as a sacred space, for us to understand, sit and think about ourselves. What is our life? What is our mind? How is our mind working? And where is my life going? That's one thing. And then the backspace, which is basically anytime when we do mistake or something, just clear it out. There's no point if you just think about, you write a whole paragraph without backspace, without pressing backspace, literally can't be readable. Right? There'll be so many spelling mistakes in there. So of course, we actually have to backspace it, but then we just try to be cautious. Now, I just want to finish by one, Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj, he once mentioned in the class that when he was actually doing a service for Induniya Maharaj, there were certain instances where he knew that he did a lot of mistakes. Like he literally did a mistake. But then every time he did a mistake, he was getting more mercy from his spiritual master. Like he was just giving more service, or he was getting more closer, or whatever, in a way that he felt that the mercy was flowing. And he was kind of confused. Is that something wrong with the philosophy? Like, if you do something wrong, then you get more mercy rather than you do good. And he was thinking, what's happening here? There's something doesn't fit. But then in the class he said that he understood that he was getting more mercy for all the mistakes he was doing, because that is the time he was conscious that he actually made a mistake. So when you at least understand that you are making a mistake, then actually the mercy flows through. Because most of the time we do mistakes and we are not conscious that we are actually doing mistakes. So he said like that being conscious of doing mistakes as well is part of Krishna consciousness. Then, and recognizing that, so that we can actually improve ourselves, then and we can actually stop doing the mistake. Okay, so we'll stop here. Any questions or suggestions? No? Yes, Prabhu.
He was conscious of making mistakes because he was in the present.
In the sense, like, no, not like that. He said like he could at least at least accept that he made a mistake. Like for example, when you're just moving the stool, it might you just didn't put it properly, and somebody comes and says that, oh Prabhu, you didn't put it in the right place. If you're not even conscious, you say like, no, I did put it in the right place. I did right. But if you're at least conscious that, oh yeah, yes, of course, yeah, sorry, I actually supposed to be on the corner, I just left it because I'm in a hurry. So just accepting that the mistake will actually, Radha Gopinath will be more happy that he's accepting it, and then you can actually look into how you can not do it. So that's the thing. Okay. Hare Krishna. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.